Hi, it's Kipin Lebates here, and today I thought I would talk about Polygon, which is a blockchain formerly known as Matic. And to be honest, I don't know why they decided to rename it, because everybody now refers to it as Polygon, formerly known as Matic, and it gets a bit annoying. The best thing is to consider Polygon to be the ecosystem and the project, and Matic now is the name of the token and the name of the Polygon mainnet. There is also a testnet called Mumbai. And if you don't know what a testnet is, I've made videos about it in the past, so go and look on my YouTube channel to get up to speed with that. So it's confusing because there are actually two Matic tokens. If you go to an exchange like Kraken and you buy some Matic tokens, what you end up buying is some Ethereum-based ERC20 tokens called Matic, released by the Polygon team. And if you are actually on the Matic mainnet, there is a native cryptocurrency for that mainnet. It's called Matic, and it's like Ether on the Ethereum network, as it's used for paying the gas fees in order to run your smart contracts on the Matic network. So that's a bit confusing, and it'll trip you up when you first start, because if you want to deploy smart contracts on the Matic network, you need Matic cryptocurrency, and you'll probably, like me, accidentally end up buying Matic ERC20 tokens. So maybe I should back up a bit now and say, what is Polygon? And the answer to that, if you go to marketing people, is it's a layer 2 solution. It's a way of running smart contracts that are just as good as Ethereum, but they are on a separate network with much lower gas fees. And that's the appeal. The idea here is that you can release your tokens and your DeFi smart contracts much cheaper. And by much cheaper, we're talking about fractions of a cent per transaction, rather than the $5, $10, $20, $100 that, or even more, that an Ethereum smart contract can take these days, especially when things are congested. Now, I used the term layer 2 there. I'm not particularly fond of this terminology, because there are lots of different solutions to overcoming the problems with, for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum having lots of fees associated with transactions, or rather high fees associated with transactions. And some people use the term layer 2 to address solutions that tackle these problems. Other people use layer 2 very specifically. So the best thing, I think, is to look at each solution and just judge it on its own merits. Now, Polygon's Matic network is effectively a clone of the Ethereum blockchain. It's EVM compatible. That means it runs an Ethereum virtual machine, and the upshot of that is that if you've written a smart contract that runs fine on Ethereum, then the odds are you can just compile it and deploy it on the Matic network, and it'll run fine too. And okay, I haven't compiled and run many contracts, maybe 15 or 20 or so on Matic, but they all worked without a hitch. It was as if I was working on Ethereum. So that's great and useful if the chain has got some traction, because one of the things about Ethereum is it's got brand recognition. If you want to release a token and have some credibility, it's probably best, if you can afford it, to release it on Ethereum, because it's the classy, established, reliable smart contract blockchain. If you go for one of these other layer 2 solutions, like Polygon, formerly known as Matic, or Binance, or XDAI, they have less popularity, they have less cachet, they don't have the brand presence that the Ethereum mainnet has. However, they are of course a lot cheaper, and Matic is one of the cheapest ones, as I've said. So back to this token issue. Well, if you've bought some ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum network called Matic, then what's the point of those, you may be asking? And the answer is that, firstly, they're a form of speculation. It's how Matic raised money through its ICO, and the hope is that they will go up in value, of course, then, as is always the case with speculation. The second purpose they serve is that you can use them to become a validator on the Matic network. If you're running a node on the Matic network and you want to participate in validating blocks, then you have to hold and stake Matic tokens from the Ethereum network. Or you can delegate your staking. You can buy the tokens and let somebody else go to all the hassle of running a PC that is acting as a node, validating blocks, and you don't have to go to all that trouble. You just say, here, I'm delegating the possibility of staking that my ERC20 Matic tokens have to this guy over here. So that should make it clear that Matic is not like Ethereum. It's not a proof of work system. It's a proof of stake system. Now, I was talking about the Matic tokens that actually exist on the Matic network, and this reveals one of the problems with the Matic network, which is you can't, there's a bootstrapping problem. In order to be able to submit transactions, contracts, or token transfers on the Matic network, you need to have Matic native cryptocurrency to buy gas, and you can't buy that at an exchange. And the Matic team have solved this by using a cryptocurrency faucet. If you've got your Matic address, which takes exactly the same format as an Ethereum address, you can put it in on their website and they'll give you a very, very small amount of Matic. We're talking about cents here, but it's enough for you to run 50 or so transactions. And the idea here then is that you will transfer some of your assets from the Ethereum mainnet to the Matic mainnet. And this is done through things called bridges. So what you're not doing actually is transferring tokens from one network, the Ethereum network, to another network, namely the Matic network. The system is set up in such a way that effectively your tokens on the Ethereum network are locked up and an equivalent amount are minted on the Matic network. And then you can mess around with them on Matic to your heart's content. And then at the end, if you want them back on the Ethereum network, well, you reverse the process. The tokens are locked up on the Matic network and released on the Ethereum network. So a bridge has to be a piece of software that is running or looking at both the Ethereum mainnet and the Matic mainnet. And I could do a whole video on bridges, to be honest, but it's not really the right point in time here because this video is already going on a bit long. So having gone to one of these bridges, you can take some Ether or some other Ethereum based token with value, transfer it on the bridge into Matic, and then you can go to QuickSwap, which is like Uniswap, to swap that token into Matic tokens, or rather the Matic native cryptocurrency, or you can go to the Matic version of Aave and you can put your Matic equivalent tokens into the Matic equivalent Aave and start earning Matic cryptocurrency as interest, and that then gives you the funds to be able to mess around with smart contracts and transactions on Matic to your heart's content. So it's a bit of a learning curve in order to get started with it. Hopefully those of you who have been thinking about this will find this video useful. Perhaps those of you who would like to understand a bit more what these other solutions that are positioning themselves as cheaper alternatives to Ethereum, maybe you now have a better understanding what that involves in the case of Polygon. And well, I think I'll wrap it up here. Ask questions in the comments below if you want me to dig into any particular Polygon, formerly known as Matic, specifics that you would like to see clarified. Hope this has been useful, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.